viewers. I'm Vibhuti Jha. This is Jaipur Dialogue USA. Welcome to the show. Please like, subscribe, support our channel any which way possible, and we appreciate your feedback. Today, I wanted to talk about the huge talk about, if I may say so, about Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin meeting in Alaska. Don't forget, Alaska was a piece of property, if I may say so, was bought by United States from Russia. So I'm sure Mr. Putin must have felt at home going to Alaska. But this was after many years that the two heads of the countries, the two most powerful nuclear nuclear powers of the world met. And if you remember, I often have said that there used to be a Russia expert, Mr. Stephen Cohen. May his soul rest in peace. He is no longer with us. But I heard him, I met him, I read his book, The Russia-US Relationship and all that, when Democratic Party were all out to destroy Russia through NATO and other things. His opinion was, and he was advisor to many US presidents with reference to Russia-US relationship. And he had said very clearly that he was very supportive of Trump, even though he was a total Democrat, didn't like Trump's policies, didn't like Trump as a person, but he did say in the forum where I was there present that Mr. Trump is absolutely right in wanting to have a dialogue with Russia. This was when Mr. Trump was in his first term. You remember how the Democratic Party had branded Mr. Trump as a Russian agent, Russian plant, so much so that the Hillary Clinton had done total opposition research in which she and the other people had said, you know the story, about the Russian collusion, which we now know 9 years later was all farce and fake. This is the very interesting element. So in the backdrop of that, Mr. Stephen Cohen had said that the two most powerful nuclear countries who have the clear ability to not only destroy themselves but the world with the kind of arsenal that they hold, they have to be in dialogue, discussion, and debate about the future of the world. Taking that message forward, Mr. Trump has always been an admirer of Mr. Putin, not because of the fact that he's sympathetic towards him. Like Trump says, it's a very easy thing for him to say. You look at the way he says, "Oh, I like Z. He's a good man. He is doing what he wants to do for his own country. And if we are bad negotiators, why do we blame Z?" So he knows everybody very well, including North Korean president. But then he was always keen to have that relationship. There is a backdrop to that. Backdrop to that is that Trump doesn't like NATO because if you remember, he was very clear. He has made statements about NATO being a defunct organization, the United Nations being a defunct organization. Look how he pulled United States out of UNESCO, WHO, and other places. So the point of the matter is he distrusts NATO because NATO, as we now know, was always using American money to sustain itself. The NATO countries were not even contributing their share of the commitment to NATO funding. They were not even giving 2%. Mr. Trump made that happen. Not only that, he wanted to get out of NATO because he was of the opinion, he was very critical, that you guys fight with Russia, but you consume Russian resources. Who is benefiting out of that? Why don't you consume American resources? So whether you like or hate Mr. Trump, but you can't deny the fact that this man does talk real politics and real business. And that is his virtue in a political atmosphere where people always do accommodation, adjustments, and compromise their position to meet certain temporary goals. Now, we all know that America is in trouble with reference to excessive spending habits. That we know. Trump is trying to cut that out. And he wants everybody to do what Obama used to say, their fair share. So here, when they met, remember, he hates wars. He takes pride in saying that I settled all the wars. Truth may be whatever it is. Every Indian is rightfully irritated for the way he has been talking about more than 30 times that he was the one responsible for stopping Operation Sindoor between India and Pakistan, what India had launched against Pakistan. Coming back to that, everybody wants to stop the war in Ukraine. There is one little background to this. Ukraine is a European problem. Mr. Jaishankar said it very clearly that Europe's problem is not world's problem, just as Europe wants to believe and wants to impose its problems on the world, but will never participate in the world's problem by themselves. This is the motivation for Mr. Trump to initiate the dialogue again. Mr. Putin has been called all kinds of names by the Democratic administration, that he's a crook, he's a cheat, he's a killer, he's this and that and everything else. When you begin to call people like that with those names, how will you ever talk to him? This is what I had said. But this time, the deal maker met the super spy in Alaska. What transpired? We do not know. But what we do know is that Trump wants to stop the war in Ukraine. And to that end, he wants to sideline players who are only encouraging war, which is not getting anywhere. Millions of people are dying. Millions of people have become refugees. So what happened in this meeting? You have seen it yourself. The beauty of technology these days is you do not need to read the newspaper to know what's happening. It's right in front of you. So United States did its own pomp and show of its own strength, flying the march past of the B-52 bombers and other warplanes to intimidate Putin. Was it? I do not think so. You would have seen how Putin looked up the whole thing, and it was just a matter of routine. All right. He even hopped into the beast, the president's car, to go to the venue for the talk. What is important is what transpired. They traveled all this way to the talk lasted for 3 hours. And nobody talked much about what happened. Trump said, there is no deal, but we had a very positive conversation. No gain, no loss situation in terms of, I didn't get the ceasefire. I had said there will be no ceasefire agreement from Putin. And Putin said something which I had talked about on Aaj Tak and Republic TV, that unless and until you address the core issues as to why this war started, you can't solve a problem. Jaipur Dialogue is going to host the annual event on Shatru Bodh very shortly. What is Shatru Bodh? The key element of Shatru Bodh is recognizing and accepting, acknowledging, and dealing with the truth. If you do not deal with the truth, Shatru Bodh will go out of the window. It won't mean anything, because you do not compromise between a drop of poison and a gallon of milk. So Trump did a few things, and Putin, I think, was also smart. They collaborated. I saw moments of collaboration, both of them not trying to outwit each other on a punch or a word. They remained very silent and quiet. They remained non-controversial in their press address to the press. What did Putin say? He endorsed Mr. Trump's claim that if he was the president, there would be no war, right? It must have made Trump very happy that the main protagonist himself is saying that there would have been no war if Trump were the president. I think Trump must have hit sky-high happiness. Number two also was the fact that there was a recognition of the fact that this war, Putin said, unless we address the primary reasons, we will not have solutions. And let's not forget that Europe has a fetish, has a style of doing things about territorial adjustments within their own continent. You know, Czechoslovakia doesn't exist. Yugoslavia doesn't exist, right? These two countries, the names have disappeared. New countries were created. USSR doesn't exist. How many more countries were created? So the question is, Ukraine was also part of USSR at one time. So so Putin wants NATO not to expand beyond a point. This is also very important that NATO is, unfortunately, perhaps the only club, men's only club, if I may say so, men's only club that is about, three musketeers philosophy, one for all for one. You know, the regulation 5 of NATO, that if any country NATO member is attacked, everybody will join in, regardless of whose fault it is, doesn't matter. To that end, they have been expanding their network. The promise was made to Russia not to expand that. To that end, this has been a major movement forward. One little very significant item, and that is they did not meet one on one. This was a very smart thing by both Putin and Trump to do. You know the reason why? Because if you remember, when they met in Helsinki during Trump's first term, they had a one on one. And the entire woke media, the Western media, talked about that Putin controls Trump. God knows what concessions Trump is giving to Putin. It remains shrouded in mystery as to what they could potentially have talked one on one. But this time it was three and three. The Secretary of State, the Russian Foreign Minister, and the Defense Minister and the Finance Minister, Finance Secretary of US, and the Finance Chief of Russia. So now it became a scenario in which nobody could speculate or say that there has been an underhand deal, right? This was important. The other part is very critical again, that war has tired everybody. Too many lives have been lost. Now the Western world wants to go and rebuild Ukraine. That's the sharing, that's the conversation which is on top of the mind of everybody. After millions of deaths, hundreds and thousands of deaths, and millions of refugees, it's time to rebuild. How do we rebuild Ukraine now? Whether it will be a climate change technology or the fossil fuel technology. So the deal maker, Donald Trump, and the spy master, Putin, came together. And I'm 100% sure when Trump said in his interview with Sean Hannity that the conversation went off very well, there is no secondary tariff on India, which is a clear indication that something important happened in it. We will know as the days unfold. What we do know is that they are going to meet again, and this time between Zelensky and Putin. And he said, Trump told Sean Hannity in that interview that Zelensky must take the peace offer. And he also implored upon EU, that is hell bent on increasing its influence with American help. This is the interesting part. EU on its own, NATO without the United States means NOTHING. And that's the important part here. So, ladies and gentlemen, watch out for what unfolds. Because on Monday, Zelensky is coming to White House to meet with Trump. You know about the last meeting, how it went. But this time, Zelensky will have to accept the terms and conditions about rebuilding Ukraine. And that's the conversation going forward. Because the delegation of people had significant number of people who were business people. And I think NATO, EU, United States, they all three have made enough money with the war machine operating. Now the time has come to make money by rebuilding Ukraine, right? The so-called food basket of the world. Well, I didn't miss it. Nobody missed the food basket during this 5-year war that has been going on there. So, ladies and gentlemen, give Trump credit. Nobody made fool of anybody. These were two smart people. As I said, one spy master, other deal maker. They were not trying to fool anybody. They made a public pretense of whatever the public wanted to know. They remained remarkably friendly, so much so that Donald Trump called Vladimir, did not call him Mr. Mr. Putin at the end of the press statement, not a conference. So I'm looking forward to, I'm hopeful something will emerge, provided it's not the EU and the NATO members who put the spoke in the wheel. That's the critical element. And I think the indications are very positive that there will be no additional tariff, secondary tariff on India and many other people, because the spy master made a deal with the deal maker. As I always say, Satyame Vijayate, for truth to triumph, you've got to face it and stand for it. I think both the leaders have recognized that possibility, that you can't fight forever. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and support our channel, and we'll talk again very soon. Thank you. Namaste.